But let's move on to earnings now. UFO Movies is one of those last companies that has reported numbers for the quarter, and it has posted a stable set of numbers for the June quarter. Profits are up almost 83%, and a good growth in sales and advertisement revenue has also been seen. So let's get a fine print of those quarterly numbers and an outlook for the future. Joining us is the Joint Managing Director of the company, Mr. Kapil Agarwal. Mr. Agarwal, thank you for joining in, and it's good to have you on the show. Let's start with the headline numbers. So your sales number is up 14%, your EBITDA is up 10%, some pressure on the margins that has been seen. So take us through the headline numbers first, then we'll go into other modalities and the breakups.
Yes, sure. No, but if you see the PAT has grown by 83%. So I think what is more important is the final bottom line. There is an 83% growth in PAT. So although EBITDA may be only 10%, but overall PAT growth is 83%. And more importantly, advertising revenue, which we always keep talking about, which is going to provide the main growth in future. Advertising revenue has grown by over 24%. Our annual guidance is 30%, and despite demonetization impact, despite GST impact, we could still grow by 24%. And the future quarters, we expect that we'll make up and we'll still grow by 30%. And the good news is that Caravan business is kicking very well. It has done 3 times of what it did in the whole of last year. It has done 3 times of that in just first quarter. And similarly, the frames business, what it did in the whole of last year, almost there it is in the first quarter itself. So we have been hedging our bets. We have been talking about the Caravan and frames business in the past quarters, and they both seem to be doing well now and growing.
I was about to speak about Caravan itself. So since you mentioned it, let's take that up first. I think there were 47 vans operational up until your last update. The Caravan business has come out of some jolt because in the rural areas, of course, demonetization has definitely been a hit. And the monsoon quarter also, operations are hardly there. Do we expect to see a very sharp pickup now in the second half, as you also say that I think the operations recommenced in the first quarter. So in this quarter, the operations recommenced. If you can give us an update of how realizations have been, any van expansion that you're looking at, and in the second half, how much of growth could Caravan contribute to you, especially since it's coming out of monsoons as well as demonetization?
Yeah. So one good news is that while the operations used to come to a standstill during the monsoon season, which is for the quarter of September, July to September. This year we have been having some activity even in this quarter. So some revenues are there in this quarter, which help us not only keeping the operations going, but also minimizing the impact of losses, because some operations is better than none. And we reached a peak of 67 vans in Q1. Then we have also expanded our offering. So it is not just the hoardings, the advertisement, but we are doing a lot of research, door knocks, sampling in the villages, which is really drawing the advertisers to it. So second half, definitely we are expecting substantial growth in Caravan business.
Right.
And yes, you talked about the margin also. The pricing actually, because of the added services, we have also been able to more than double our pricing.
All right. So that's a good thing for margin upside as well as realization. So Caravan is clearly doing well for you. But let's speak about your mix. I mean, you've always spoken that the government and PSU side of advertising revenue is healthy and good. Are you seeing some pressure? Because obviously we are coming off a higher base because there have been UP elections, there have been state-wise elections, and also obviously if you take a longer trajectory, we've come off the Lok Sabha elections in 2014 as well. So is this current period a little fallow for the government and the PSU side of revenues, because it's almost around 50-50 right now between corporate hyperlocal and government and PSU?
Yeah, so last year our ultimate objective is that the corporate revenue should overtake the government revenue, because the government revenue gets hit by these cycles. When the elections are there is a model code of conduct which comes into play, and the revenues drop. Moreover, government revenue comes from only very few advertisers, and the corporate revenue comes from thousands of advertisers, small and big. So there is a natural hedge in that. Last year in the same quarter, our corporate revenue was 45%, government was 55%. This quarter, last quarter, the quarter that we are discussing, the government revenue was only 49%, and the corporate shot up from 45% to 51%. So that's always a good news, and we are pushing. So while the government revenue is growing, we are pushing the corporate revenue very hard, and Caravan, Frames are all steps in that direction.
And finally, before we let you go, sir, let's speak about Scrabble. So I think via Scrabble, you operate your D cinemas. And if you can give us an outlook of the visual print fee, because globally, I think distributors have stopped paying it, and that's in line with the agreements. But the D cinema VPF has contracted overall by around 27 odd %. And for e-cinemas, the same has gone up by 3 odd %. So if you can take us through this, and also
right,
how Scrabble is doing for your international operations.
Yeah, so the reduction in the virtual print fee is contractual, and which we at the time of IPO 2 years back we had already declared that so much will be the degrowth. So this degrowth is absolutely planned degrowth, and that is where we went into additional businesses like Caravan and Frames, and we said that these additional revenues should be able to make up for the degrowth in the D cinema virtual print fee. And this is exactly what has happened. I'm very happy that like Q1, this is exactly what has happened. The degrowth of D cinema in the bottom line of that has been actually compensated partly. Major part of that has been compensated by Frames and Caravan business. So this is absolutely planned degrowth, and this will continue. By next year, it will be over. Middle of next year, then it will come to a standstill, and there will be no further degrowth after that.
Fair point, Mr. Agarwal. We're going to leave it at that, but thank you so much for sparing the time for being with us, taking us through your quarterly numbers and also an outlook for the same going ahead into the second half. That's all the time that we have on this edition of Trending Today. Thank you so much for watching.